Very, very good morning to you all. First of all, well done for getting here. It's Monday morning, it's January, it's really, really cold. So a very warm welcome to you all. As Oscar very kindly pointed out, my name is Singh. I work for a company called Bango. We work in the area of mobile commerce. And in particular, what's different about us to what else you're going to hear about today is that we work with mobile network operators. So these are all the sort of big network operators across the world, in the Americas, in LATAM, in Asia, in Europe, all around. And as people in the games industry, you may not have thought about, okay, well, actually, how can we use these people to actually acquire users? And that's what I'm here to tell you about. So in particular, mobile network operators are sort of like very, very powerful in terms of the reach. There are 5 billion mobile subscribers in the world, and there are 7 billion people in the world. So the majority of people have got a phone. And what's interesting is that in some areas of the world, people use their phone to actually pay for things. So there's only 2 billion credit cards in the world, right? So 2 billion credit cards, 7 billion people, you can do the maths, right? So there's a lot of people out there that basically, can't pay via credit card, and they use mobile phones to do that. And we in the sort of like, Western European or US, I don't know where the audience is from today, generally won't be used to sort of like, okay, we all use credit cards, and so we're used to it. But essentially sort of like being able to use your mobile phone to pay is quite common in places where there's very little credit card penetration. Examples being Latin America and Southeast Asia. And what's interesting is that the mobile network operators actually are able to collect information about payments. And so what happens is that they can build up information about users on their buying behavior. So typically, we target users based on the demographic. We kind of say, okay, this is what the gender is, this is what the age group is, this is what their interests are, et cetera, et cetera. What's different with this approach is to have a look at what are people actually buying and how much are they spending. And as a result of that, you can basically run user acquisition campaigns to target users who are more likely to make a purchase. And that's essentially a better ROI. So what are the types of things that we can sort of like discover from buying behavior using the payment data? Well, we can find out how much are people spending. So what are the typical amounts that they're spending? What type of content do they buy? So basically, when they buy something, we know what they're buying. So it may be that you have a look at people who are buying a competitive title, and as a result of that, you say, okay, well, I'll target those users. Or you look at someone who bought your title, and you see what other content they bought. So there's all sorts of well-established methods of targeting users based on their buying behavior. And also, you're interested in people who can regularly buy things. Have they made a purchase a month on month, or in the past few months, how many purchases have they made? So frequency of purchase is actually really, really important as well. And then if you want to go for sort of like, homing in on particular high spenders, you can look at a mobile subscriber network and say, well, who are the top spenders within here, right? And can I actually go and target those users? And the answer is yes. And there are people who are more likely to make a payment because they've just registered a payment method, and they haven't. So you register something, you're downloading a load of stuff for free, but you haven't actually made that first payment yet. You just need that nice juicy offer made to you, and then after that, you're up and running. And Bango, as a company, is connected up to 40 plus mobile network operators, and we can do comparisons between. So we can actually sort of help guide people to who the best performing network operators are as well. And why do we want to do all this? Well, hopefully this is all really, really obvious to you. But on the left, there are two streams of revenue two main streams of revenue for an app developer. One is from in-app purchases, and one is from in-app advertising. And everybody wants to download something for free, and that's what the majority of users do. And then you monetize based on the impressions, the adverts that you're showing them. But that, the money from that, what we found is that, based on a number of reports and also talking to app developers as well, is that the money from in-app advertising is much smaller than the money from in-app purchases. In-app purchases can be up to sort of 5 times more in terms of revenue streams. So for every single one of those users that you are able to sort of like find who make in-app purchases, they're worth 5 times more. So getting to those users is like getting to gold. So that's, as a company, that's what we do. We help you to sort of find those users, find the users who are more likely to make an in-app purchase. And that's what we've been concentrating on. And I'm going to go through a case study which gives you, or a couple of case studies which give you an example of how we've achieved this, and how effective this is. So how do we do it in the first place? Well, we've got this thing called the Bango Market, some leaflets on your sheet, on your seats there to tell you about the Bango Marketplace. It's a place where app developers come and log in. We've got hundreds of app developers who are registered for the Bango Marketplace, and they basically log in and they have a look at these offers that are available there. Is there a pointer or something like that? No, there isn't. Okay. So over on the left-hand side that you can see there, on the right-hand side, I should say, you can see some tiles, and each of those tiles, represents an offer from a network operator. So you might be able to read there that there's a Latin America bundle. So if you want to go and target users in Latin America, we've got sort of like something there where you're going to go and select that, and then you go and run an acquisition campaign within that region with the help of those operators. And so the operators publish those offers, and the app developers basically log in and have a look at those offers and are able to sort of request to work with those. It's quite a powerful way to kind of go forward and take your game to market, take your app to market, and basically acquire these paying users. So the types of segments that we found, and this is by no means exhaustive, these are just illustrative examples. The type of segments that we create. The way to think of a segment is that, if you've used Facebook advertising, Facebook has this concept of an audience. You create an audience of users. Well, these are essentially audiences of users, and we can do it inside Facebook, by the way. We have a way of basically creating these types of segments inside there. And you might want to have a look at users who make regular purchases or make frequent purchases. Or you might want to have a look at, users who are high spenders, spending, the whales. Users who show some loyalty in terms of they've made purchases over a long period. So that's particularly important for subscription type services. Or you might want to target users who are buying particular type of content. And we can create those audiences, and then you run the campaigns to sort of go and acquire the users. And to get started, it's fairly simple. Essentially, you choose which operators you're going to choose with, which is like a 3-step process. You choose which operators you're going to. You then define the target audience, the one that I've just been telling you about, and then you run the campaign and track the success. And what I want to do now is kind of move away from rhetoric and sort of telling you, oh, isn't this amazing and great, and actually talk to you about, how did this work in practice. So the first one I'm going to tell you about is something really interesting, one we did with Smule. And I'll tell you who Smule are. Does anyone here not know? Does anyone know who Smule are? Smule? Anyone? Okay, we've got 2 or 3. So I will actually tell you who Smule are. Indosat, SmartFriend, and XL all sound like complete gobbledygook, which is okay. What they are network operators, and they're network operators in Indonesia. And Indonesia, is a collection of islands, and it's comprised of 200 million people. Huge market, right? Now, not particularly high spenders, but very, very large market. And so the goal that we set ourselves, if you start on the left-hand side, is what's the target audience? Well, the target audience that we were looking at is who are the top paying users in the last 12 months, so in the last year, who have not made a purchase in Smule. right? So basically, these are good spenders, but they've never actually made an in-app purchase in Smule. They may actually have Smule installed, and some may not have Smule installed, but the main thing they have in common is they've never made a purchase inside Smule. Now, Smule made an offer. They said, okay, well, we will basically sort of like, just to incentivize things, we'll be 50, they're a subscription-based service. It's free to download, and then you pay a monthly subscription. Is they were going to offer 50% off the first month. And the method we used was a text message campaign. What's more common these days with the app developers that we're working with is a Facebook campaign. So in this particular case, we used an SMS blast. And the main goal that they set us was we want you to increase the conversion from free to download to paying users. That's the main thing that they want to achieve. So Smule, the biggest sort of like, karaoke app in the world. They're huge. 50 million monthly active users, very popular all across the world, and they had a sort of an ambition to grow in Southeast Asia. That's where they wanted to grow their market. So they went up to the marketplace, connected up with the network operators in Indonesia, and we ran an ad campaign through mobile, through SMS, and the idea was that anyone who hasn't already downloaded the app downloads the app, and it's free, and then they can then make an in-app purchase to buy songs, and so it's just basically getting to their subscription service. And what they wanted to do was increase the conversion rate of users to VIP subscription. So that's their monthly premium subscription in Asia. Now, their conversion rate in Asia was 10 times less than their conversion rate in the US. In the US, they're converting about 5%. In Asia, their conversion rate from free to paying users was 0.5%, right? And the goal that they set us was that can you double the conversion rate, so double it from 0.5 to 1%, and that was the task that we were set. So we ran the campaign with the 3 network operators. An SMS was sent, and the offer was put out. And it was run during Ramadan because there's a large population of Muslim people in Indonesia, and during that time, it's a good time to target them. Just a very simple message was sent out. And you clicked on the link. When you clicked on the link, if you hadn't downloaded the app, then it'll take you to the Google Play Store to download the app. And then after that, you have a few days to convert. So here are the results, okay? So the results were that click-through rate was 1.92%. So that's about sort of like a reasonable average, 2%, 1.5 to 2% click-through is an amount. So no great shakes there, decent click-through rate. But the really big thing was that 4.4% of the users who clicked through made a purchase within the attribution window. And that represents a 9 times increase on their existing run rate in Indonesia. So huge, huge difference. And that's because we were able to target users in Indonesia who were able to pay and who had shown a previous sort of like behavior of paying. These were the top spenders. And so, this was kind of like, completely blew them away. We said, well, and we looked at it and we thought, what are the reasons for this, right? Indonesia's got very low credit card usage. And, not everybody has got enough credit to actually pay who's on their phone, even if they wanted to. So by being able to target these particular users, we're able to sort of ramp up the conversion rate to paying users. So really positive, and as a result, we ran another campaign with them about 3 months later, and the results were even better. The results were even better because this time we targeted things even more. We looked at the users who bought in the first campaign and had a look at what other things they bought, And as a result of that, we included in our cohort of users, in our audience of users, those particular users who had bought that list of content as well. One final case study I want to talk to you about is Rovio. I think all of you know who Rovio are, but essentially, we again targeted top-paying users. The offer here was a free in-app purchase, and then inside there that was sent out through an operator-specific message. So an operator has like my whatever operator name app on their phone, and they're able to sort of send messages to there. And what they wanted to do was acquire new users and increase the spend. So don't really need to go through this. You know what Angry Birds is. Everyone knows this huge, massive, one of the biggest games ever. And we're working with Verizon in the US, who've got a huge subscriber base. And a push notification was sent out to these Verizon users, and they were given an incentive to download. And the incentive was a free chest of gems, which normally costs sort of like, I'm not sure whether that's $9.99 or US, or it should be US dollars, I think. And then that was sent through the My Verizon app. So as a Verizon customer, you get certain messages from the operator. One of these was saying, look, you've got a free chest of gems if you go inside Angry Birds. And so that was sent out on a mass scale, that message from the operator to their subscribers through the app. And again, fantastic results. Twice as many Rovio sales, during that period. 21% more, 32% increase in the lifetime value, and 17% more new customers. Massive success. And again, this was sort of like, as a result of segmenting that. So, I don't know how I'm doing for time at the moment.
You've got 3 minutes.
Okay, great. Well, that's really good. So, essentially, like what I've told you about is the Bango marketplace. It's a way for you to connect up to mobile network operators. Why do you want to do that? You want to acquire more paying users. I've shown you two great examples of us working with two big app developers. We don't care the size of the app developer. If you want to work with us, then come and see us. I just want to point out a couple of my colleagues in here at the moment. Angelica and Josh, do you want to just raise your hands? So we'll be around all day today. I'm on the panel later with Oscar as well. And if you want to come and talk to me about how you can get access to the marketplace, I'll be more than willing to talk to you about that. So with that, I'll thank you.
Thank you very much, Guy. Has anyone actually done this kind of behaviour before? Anyone in the room who's tried to work with operators recently? It's obviously something that's very new to you. As somebody who used to be an operator, Guy, I find it amazing how little that the operators are getting used. I mean, yes, in Western markets, that influence has kind of mostly gone. There is still some of it. But it's the reach, and I think, as you say, it's that ability to access people who don't have a credit card. We get so biased, I think, with the ease of credit card use. And the fact that the app stores really just haven't used that properly, in my opinion.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what's the biggest challenge, you think? Is it this perception that people don't understand that there's this wider audience out there? Or
I think the biggest thing is actually, when I go and talk to app developers, they actually think, why would a network operator be interested in me? Why would they want to actually, surely they've got sort of like all these other things. And network operators are desperate to sort of like, try and look at additional services, push through more content, because voice is dead, data is what they make their money from, and of course apps are the key to all of that, so.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it's a long time ago since I was 3, but you think about that kind of work, it's still the same principle. They've still got to drive their ability to target. And on that note, thank you very much.
Thank you.